official meeting. I'll call the roll call and ask each director to please acknowledge her presence. Mindy Reynolds.
Present.
Andrew Freeman.
Present.
Bob Lilac.
Present.
Walt Lashevsky, President. Hartley McIntosh, President. All right, officially call the meeting order. Moving to item number 2. Will you kindly stand and join me as we honor our country and state flags with pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one nation under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3, receive comments from the public. Anybody signed up for public comment? Okay. Item 4, consider an act upon request for adjustments. Mike, is there any adjustments required? All right. And we resolved everything with
We haven't been sued yet.
I did speak to Aziz Jamaluddin. He did regretfully accept your offer of $2,500. I think the case is closed.
so it's a closed matter now. All right, thank you. All right, consent agenda. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to regular agenda. Item number 9, received the monthly SJRA report.
All right, so it begins on your packet on page 17. It runs for a little bit. Keep it kind of short because I know you have a lot on the agenda, but there's no major violations in April. Do want to let you know the storm that we had a couple weeks ago, wastewater plant 1 had 8 inches of rain in 9 hours. And the instantaneous flow through wastewater plant 1 was about 32 million gallons. So a whole lot of water coming in. Keep in mind the annual average, daily average, if you will, in a lot of cases, about 3.2, 3.5. So 10x on the actual flow coming in at that. I believe Eric will cover another issue in the water system during your GM report.
So that was mostly inflow and not infiltration.
Correct.
Okay.
Inflow coming from manholes, sinkholes, stuff that just as soon as it drops, it's basically instantaneous into the lines. Infiltration is generally groundwater that soaks in over time through the pipes. So it raises rapidly and then drops off pretty quickly.
Congratulating.
In the report is all the other information related to projects, financials, and other items. But if you have any questions from the report or anything else with the Woodlands, GRP about coverage.
No, but we'd like to congratulate you on your award, the Allison Award.
Thank you for that. That was a surprise to me. So I appreciate it.
I do have a.
And that was reflected in your paycheck too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the negative was for attending the conference, I think?
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Tell me more about this new accounting system that,
The ERP system?
Yeah.
Oh, I let Haley do that. So she's been intimately involved.
Yeah, we're going through our bill live right now. So, anything specific?
well, just, if it says financial information will not be available.
Yes, so we're in the middle of go live, so we're trying to get into our system, get our data imported and everything. So this is typically when we like to share financials, but we're not in the system fully, like we're able to do transactions and stuff, but we're still building that out. So we're looking at bringing financials into for April.
What was the reason for switching to a new system?
It is, the current one we're using is no longer supported, so they're not doing updates or anything else to it. So we were having some issues with that. But also if it's not supported, then we can't keep going with it. So it was just a good time for us to go ahead and look at other providers.
We had, we had 4 or 5 different programs within SRA that were trying to speak to each other, and every upgrade became a disaster, essentially, that you were having to update, little macros that were speaking amongst them. And so essentially amongst all of that and the fact that our accounting system was no longer going to be supported, we needed to make a move. We've moved to Microsoft Dynamics 365. So it's all integrated using Power BI. And so we're going to have a much more seamless accounting system, procurement system, and just system across the board.
Good luck with Microsoft. I heard nobody ever has problems with Microsoft.
Nobody does, but nobody has any problem with any software ever. So, but that's what that is. And so apologies for the delay, but we will bring that to next month.
Who was the old system?
GP.
Great Plains.
Oh, great,
Yeah,
oh,
Fillmore.
great pain.
Great
Plains.
Yes, yes.
Anything else on the ERP?
All right, anything else on item 9? Okay, moving on to item 10, discuss potential funding alternatives related to proposed infrastructure projects. I'd like to defer that. We have 2 new members that are joining, and I'd like to have them get a copy of what we went through last month, the different alternatives out there, and then we can put it on the agenda next month when they're more abreast of what we've been talking about.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, item 11, receive information from SJRA and Friesen Nichols regarding partial rehabilitation net present value.
On page 38 through 40 is the summary of the report that Friesen Nichols did that was requested by the trustees. They got the April trustees meeting. And so what you're looking at on page 38, 39, these are the costs related to, if you go back to a couple months ago when Aaron and Connie and Dan presented our project plan. One slide had 2 columns that if you delay the new plant like a year, this is the projects that had to be done. The other column said these are the projects if you delay like the past 18 months. These 2 pages show you what the cost would be to delay to do those projects if you delay the plan.
By 1 year.
The first column in the darker blue is going to be by 18 months.
19 months.
Those are the projects that we said would basically be some cost, if you will, Band-Aids. The other column is going to be if it's between 18 months and 5 years. So 2 columns on the presentation, 2 columns here just to match projects and dollars up with it. So what you're looking at in the first column, if there's an 18-month delay, you're looking at about on page 39, the sum is 8.6 million in projects that need to be done. If you delay 18 months to 5 years, you're looking at roughly $33 million for the projects that need to be done. How that ties in as well, the actual NPV is on page 40. Bob, you probably got a whole lot more experience with this than I do. But easiest way for me to explain this is when you're looking at this graph on page 40, those 2 red dots need to be below, basically below on the right side of the green line for it to be fiscally feasible to go forward. Question?
Well, I talked to Dan about updating the present value model that we had, and I haven't talked to him recently about it, but I think we want to wait until we get the results from this current study that's going on. When will that be completed?
On the Friesen
Yeah.
F&I, that's what you're looking at right here.
Yeah.
So you mean when is Dan gonna update the?
Financial inputs. Has not been able to give me the new financial inputs.
So Dan couldn't be here this morning, but what I will tell you is this is the completion of the Friesen Nichols analysis that was authorized in the April trustees meeting.
Okay.
And so the assumptions that were put into the financial model were decided in that trustees meeting. So they are labeled, if you look at the green line on the legend underneath, there's a 5% near-term escalation, 4.5% long-term escalation, 3.75% bond interest rate. And so those were the assumptions put into the financial model.
But that financial model does not treat capital costs differently than operating costs. That's why the reason for a present value analysis. I'll talk to Dan about it directly.
Yeah, there was an extended discussion on this whole thing at the trustees meeting. And many questions were asked, and that the result was that they've done extensive evaluation to come up with these figures. This does not include the initial bond that we're gonna have of what, 55 million?
40 million.
40 million. That does not include that.
So I think that, Mr. Lally, to kind of answer your question, I think I understand what you're saying. These two columns, the left and the right, the 18-month or the 18-month to 5 years, doesn't include every expense that there is. What's important to note is that we kind of stopped analyzing anything more because what you found was the red dots, which are the results of that 8.6 million and that 33 million, are so far to the left of that green line that it doesn't make sense to continue to add dollars to those red dots and take them further away. We did an analysis as well. We called it a sensitivity analysis to try to kind of challenge those assumptions that are listed in the green area of how absurd would it need to be to bring that green line all the way to actually put those red dots on the other side. And we actually couldn't get it there. We got closer, but the green line never did cross over the red lines. And so at this point, our recommendation is the little recommendations. It's not economically feasible right now to delay.
Well, and it wasn't a question of determining whether to delay or not. It's just looking at the different options. I'll work with Dan on it. And
Answer your question.
for now,
Do you have any other comments on item 11? All right, item 12, receive and discuss the draft SJRA budget.
There's Haley again. Take it from here.
Yeah.
Page 42, I think it starts.
So the presentation that I'm gonna walk through is in y'all's packet, starting on page 42. And then there's also a draft, budget in there as well. So this is. So just to start us out, as Chris said, my name is Haley. I'm in the accounting department for Extra for any of y'all who haven't met me. So we're bringing the budget to y'all now. We're gonna present it here at the MUDs. We'll be here in June for questions, and then y'all will vote in July to direct your trustee to vote in August. What we're here for, and what we're asking for. So the rates that we're proposing is our wholesale water rate is $2.73, which is a decrease of 5 cents and 2%. Then our wastewater rate, we're proposing to keep it the same as FY24 at $5.65. So we did add a slide in here to talk about the GRP rates. Kind of have the opportunity to talk about the blended rate that comes through and those rates, and the review committee is not happening during this.
Monday, well.
So, just to let y'all know that the rates here that we're discussing for the GRP have not been shared with anybody yet. That's gonna happen next week. At the GRP, so y'all get to see it before then, because our budget got a little delayed this year. So on the blended rate, we're talking about doing a rate of $2.97, which comes from the GRP rate getting a reduction there, so. That was just an FYI. So,
Yeah, highlight is the rates come down. That's the highlight.
that's the highlight we gave it to trustees, so now we're going a little more detail of how we got there, but yes. So the next slide, just some of the budget considerations that we included in this presentation is, our sales, we're gonna decrease, we're gonna increase our sales because we're gonna decrease our water loss. Our water loss is going from 5.5% to 4%. So that gets us a little bit more in sales on the water side, and on wastewater, we're keeping the demands the same. Some of the other highlights that we'll talk about, we have some slides in there, is the chemicals, electricity, payroll, and public communications, some of the same things that we have talked about in the past. The project plan, same thing here, we're keeping the transfer to R&R consistent so that we can continue our projects. The R&R transfer this year will stay at 6 billion. And our blend is staying same too, so we're keeping it at a 50-50 blend between groundwater and for FY25.
So if I can just hit a few things, I know y'all know, but I'll the new directors that are gonna be seated. On the sales is increasing, but production is not. So what we're seeing is sales over a 6-year or production over a 6-year period has a rate of change of like negative 0.1%. But with the AMI meters that y'all put in, we're seeing the water loss drop quite a bit. So I will tell you, this 4% is aggressive. You know, I would prefer about a 5%, 5.5%. But if you look at our monthly financials, every month the sales are above what we're budgeting. So we went ahead and cut it back a little bit to be more aggressive. Also on the project plan, that's $6 million. That is the same amount that we've budgeted for the last few years. Does not include anything with the new wastewater plant, AC lines, anything else. This is all non-bond related stuff. So just FYI.
Which is very interesting, that if we conserve water, we're going to get a higher rate from San Jacinto River Authority because they have fixed costs. So if you conserve water and they have fixed costs, they've got to recover those costs by raising rates. So it's a very interesting dynamic, isn't it? We want to save water, but we got to educate the public that the fixed costs for the plant are the same.
So are your costs for chemicals coming down?
Should go through that, and they are in some cases, yes.
So on the next slide, we included a few things that are in our budget that have been requested by WWA and the MUDs. So the first thing up is we have some money in the budget to help with the public education campaign, the wastewater plant and the bonds and all of that. So we'll see that in our budget for $150,000. The next thing up is the lobbyists that we've been asked to work with to help us with our infrastructure funding and the interest rates and other things and getting us on the state.
So what would the lobbyists do?
That's what they've been working on, is getting us on some state plans and helping us. If we're on the state plan, we get better seating for some funding and some interest rates and things. So I think they're just trying to get what we're doing here out to the state and above, to get us that.
Well, they help assist in getting the 3.6 million from Crenshaw and then another 1.8, I think, for Station 24. And we're working on some other.
Bear Branch Reservoir, we got funding on that. Correct?
That was 3.6 million.
Yeah, 3.6 million. And that was as a result of the lobbyist.
Is this the first time we've used lobbyists?
No.
So this is the same
for
firm?
renewal. And as you recall, last year at the budget time, the fee went down.
Yeah, it's a-
Per month.
okay. So this is the same firm and everything, Mr. Neal.
Just a smaller amount per month. We lowered it.
So on the next slide, it's just kind of a summary screenshot of what's in the other budget packet, just to have it here in the slide for y'all to see. You can see in the top left that the rates that we're proposing are there with the decrease information. I don't know anything specifically to say on this slide because we're talking for certain other things, but your summaries there if y'all want to see that. And we did add the budget variance dollar amount and percents there for y'all to look at. So to your question, chemicals, our chemical cost is going down as a whole when we look at all of the different chemicals we use in the woodlands, like chlorine, sulfur, polymer, alkalinity, all of the costs are going down. But it's not really because of the price. The price is going up just slightly on our per unit basis. But Chris's team has found a lot of efficiencies with some of the chemicals in the plants, so that's helping us, our usage of chemicals, to go down a little bit on some of those things. So price wise, we're a little bit up per unit, but quantity of what we're using is coming down. So you'll see that in the budget there. 550 less for 25 than 24.
That's been one of your big costs the last couple of years, haven't been the increase like in chlorine.
It has been, and that's actually one of the biggest drops is we found it's called a RTC unit for chlorine. So it's actually live measuring and live measuring the flow and adjusting the dose based off demand. And it's about a 30% savings at wastewater plant 2. And so we have it in the budget to put at wastewater plant 3. So if we save that over there, it's a smaller facility, but there should be more savings next year as well. Pays for itself in a year and a half.
Before you go on your proposed budget, the variances, have you seen a big increase in your employee benefits? Also, has that been a factor?
Off on that, I don't have to. I know the number's higher. I just don't know.
And also your professional service fees have gone up significantly. What is that all attributed to?
The biggest thing, while she's thinking about the benefits, the biggest thing with professional fees, we have been there about $150,000 for Six and Final accounting audit. Since we did the actual audit itself in 2017, it's been, at this point, it'd be 8-9 years, and just need to go back and just make sure land use is still the same, and just do an overall audit of the entire thing to make sure every MUD has been treated fairly, if you will, across the board, paid other dues and everything else. Another part of that is there's going to be a Senate Bill 3 a few years ago after the winter storm that came through. There were some revisions that occurred in November, December. And so there's about 50,000 in there to go and make sure that we're meeting legal obligations of that. So that's give or take $200,000 of that increase.
And then also in professional fees, you'll see the lobbyist is in there. As Eric was saying, this is not the first year we're doing it, but last year we only budgeted for a partial year. So that's why you'll see the budget go up even more. Monthly is going down, but last year we budgeted partial year, this year full year. That's why you'll see that amount in the lobbyist there. Then on the benefits question with our salaries, this was something that we looked at too. So I have a very different answer for you because we had the same question. A lot of that has to do with the direction that we got from senior management to increase our benefits, health insurance by 10%. Costs that are potentially coming on our plan. The other thing is we have some vacancies in our direct and indirect staffing in the Woodlands division. Tech services is getting some personnel that they can hire. Accounting is getting personnel. And then there's several that are on Chris's team that are vacant right now. And we budget our vacancies at full family.
And that includes tripling Chris's salary, right?
If we had the power. No, it does not. But, yeah. But this increase, the salaries and wages, and are you looking at the full detail or are you looking at that last slide?
Slide that one to the left of the
Okay,
chemicals.
then I want to point out that, in the email packet, presentation, we all get to the budget that looks like this. There is more detail on exactly what line items they have. And about half of it is in our actual payroll because of the increase in FTEs, indirect FTEs, and I do have a slide on that and two of those slides, but it is on the indirect salaries and then on the insurance that we're anticipating an increase on. Plus we have vacancies. We don't know when we hire them, what they're going to come in with a family or just be a single or decline insurance.
The FTE is considered contractors or employees? Employees.
Health insurance to our employees, but our FTE counts are just employees. And also, it's not just the health insurance being budgeted at family for some of our vacancies. We also had employees this past year elect to take health insurance that had declined it in the past. So those kind of fit into our insurance as well. So it's not just vacancies, it's also change in our current employees selection and health insurance plus the costs we're anticipating on the benefit side and then on the salary side with the increase in our. Any other questions? Back to the presentation on page 48, staffing bonus. So as I was talking about with our staffing, we did have an increase in FTEs, indirect FTEs. We did decrease our direct FTEs, which is our direct Woodlands staff that they don't do anything else other than Woodlands and work directly under Chris. That FTE went down just slightly, 1. And then our indirect FTE went up about 1.5. The next slide has a little bit more detail on exactly what departments increased their FTEs, what had changes in their FTEs, and why. So there's a little justification there. So as you can see, the increase that we had in our salaries budget, about half, about 400,000 was to salaries, and the other half was for the insurance adjustments that we have. Oh, and then also we included a 6% merit and promotions increase on our salaries.
Could you explain the difference between direct and indirect?
Yes. I'm going to do that with the next slide because it's kind of visual. But a little better. So on this next slide, we have all of the departments or divisions that are on the left-hand side until you get to that woodlands one at the bottom. All of those, senior management, admin services, SCADA, GRP, all of those in the woodlands budget are considered indirect FTEs. So basically it's staff that works for another department or division as far as their person they're directly hired for, but they do work for the woodlands, so they allocate their time out. So we consider that indirect FTEs.
So
But that's-
these are, so indirect are people who split their time between various.
Yes, even if they don't split their time, like, I don't know how everybody is exactly allocated, but for the most part, it's you're hired into a different department or division for the sole purpose of either allocating your time, or you might be a full-time somewhere else, you know, like some of our like services people, they might be a full-time woodlands engineer, but they're still technically under GNA as the engineering department. So, like I said, on this slide, we've added all of the different changes that happen to our direct and indirect FTEs, so we have to review that and take a look at the receipts. Next, we have utilities. So this one is a big change in our budget for FY 25. We are reducing our electrical budget, 700,000. This was something that we had increased the budget in the past to account for the price changes that we were getting from our electrical provider. And as time went on, they were able to resolve some of their price issues. Those savings have been passed to us. Now we use the budget going forward on that. We're just gonna call out that this is a change in our budget, that we are reducing our electrical budget 700,000. So next, the future facilities slide. This is just an FYI so that we're able to tell you all about this transfer that we're doing. But it does not impact our woodlands operating budget or rate in any way, but we're going to include it in our FY 25 budget plans, because our budget plans include all of our woodlands funds, not just our operating. So we're taking this time to let y'all know about this transfer. We're proposing to close out future facilities and move it to the R&R fund, which is part of our contract that we already have in place with y'all that came out of all the supplementals that came out of 6 Vinyl. So we're looking at closing future facilities for 4.8 million, almost 4.9 million, plus whatever interest earnings are in that account at the time of the transfer. So that'll take place in FY 25 for us.
And so when those funds go over, they're already kind of earmarked for elevated storage tank number 6. That's about a $9-10 million job, and these funds are the reason we don't need a bond. So just FYI, we're not going to take it over there and just let it sit. We've already got an allocated part for it.
So the next slide is something that we included last year and we thought it went over well, so we've added it again this year. We went through the budget, so the packet I was talking from a second ago, and anything that had a variance change of 50,000 plus or minus on a specific budget line, or a variance percent change of 50% plus or minus, we included it in this slide and added a little bit more justification. For the most part, those get pulled out and become slides to talk from, but there are a few that are in here that are really exciting to talk from a presentation, like painting. We didn't paint last year, so we're going to paint this year on the slide, but the information is in here in this slide to show the major drivers in our budgets that we didn't block specifically. So, the last slide here is just to remind y'all of the rates that we are proposing and the vote that we're proposing. So we are proposing, again, the water rate drop 5 cents, which is 2%. So it'll be $2.73 per 1,000 gallons in FY 25, and then the weighted rate is 5 cents, which is no change from FY 24. And again, we are asking for the vote in July at the MUDs to direct your trustees so that the trustees vote in August.
Back when we added Metro and 39 and went from 45 directors to 55 directors, we decided that in the budget process for San Jacinto River Authority, if you have questions, since we're doing a 3-month series on this, submit them in writing so that they can consolidate the answers of the 55, now 50 directors, okay? So if you have any questions on the budget as presented, the best thing to do is address them in writing to San Jacinto River Authority, and they will either try to resolve them individually or jointly at the continuing meetings.
So probably best to present. it
Is that
to the,
your policy again
guys.
this year?
The only adjustment to what Hartley said was we just ask everything to go through Eric. That way Eric's in the know, he can help consolidate.
Okay, give them to Eric.
Yes.
Yeah,
After y'all vote in July, we'll be back in June for questions.
outstanding presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And it's so nice to be able to tell people we're reducing the rates at San Jacinto River Authority. And getting a big rebate, which you didn't mention a lot about.
No, I think we talked about that last month a little bit.
Yes.
I'm not too sure what the share is, but as I know, GRP had some extra funds and so.
We don't know how much per mud yet.
You reported that last month. It's about 210,000 for Mud One. And
Okay,
that's indicated in your financials, in the revenue section.
yeah, that's good news. And that does not include settling with Conroe, right?
Correct, that does not.
So we're gonna get another rebate if they settle with the same method with Conroe.
But you know, in the past, I've been against building up reserves because inflation was greater than the interest rate we got on investing those reserves. And now the situation is flipped. We're getting more money on our reserves and greater than the rate of inflation. So, and because bond costs are going up and higher, to me, it makes economic sense. If this was my own personal investment, I would build and invest my reserves rather than giving them back or rebating them. That's my opinion as an investor.
Well, as you know, when we set the budget, we differed on that. I thought we had enough reserves. But you know, that now they're built up and that's good. You can always handle reserve.
Okay, let's move on to item 13, receive an update on Spring Creek pension. Any comments there?
No update.
When's that study going to be completed?
Yeah, we didn't have an update last month either.
I was gonna say, I know that it is in process and, it's something that we're working, that's the one that's stuck kind of with the solar farm and some different things, for the detention analysis there.
What is the progress on the solar farm? Are they getting close to?
We kind of, it's gone a bit silent from their side and we're on hold because the property is owned by somebody else. And so we're sort of at their, mercy.
Well, I urge the team to start spending time talking with the university and the builder of the solar farm about making some kind of provision. And even at one time, I wanted to meet with Crenshaw and see if he could get involved in doing that. And I guess nothing's happened on that.
I think there have been discussions, Mr. Lilac, but I don't think that it has proceeded yet. So
We-
I will pass that along.
We'd definitely like to get an update next month. Where we stand on this, either pros or cons, either we're gonna move forward or we're just wasting time and money. All right, item 14, we received the attorney's report.
No general items for discussion today. I do need to cover items 15 through 22. And then we'll need to step out. I've got some more board meetings. The way the months fell, the way the days fell this month, the first day of the month is a Wednesday, so it moved all the MUD meetings up. So I've got some other MUD meetings in town at 11. So need to head out after these items. Let me go ahead and go on to item 15 and
Yes.
go ahead and cover those.
Yeah.
15 supplemental agenda to canvass the returns of the election held on May the 4th and adopt the order declaring the results of the election. We did receive the official results from Montgomery County elections yesterday evening at 5:44 p.m. It did not change the result. but they had to go through, they've got deadlines. It's a very compressed time period to go through and have them consider provisional ballots, ballots by mail. And so their last day for the early voting ballot board to reconvene and count provisional ballots and late ballots by mail was actually yesterday. So we asked them to expedite the official results for MUD 1 so that we could canvass this morning, and they were able to accommodate us. So we do have the official results. Go ahead and read those out. Mindy Reynolds, 193. Jim Beers, 192. Steve Lawrence, 189. Byron Forbes, 185. Andrew Freeman, 182. Hartley McIntosh, 163. Peter Sy, I think is maybe the way you pronounce it, 25. So our top three vote getters are Mindy Reynolds with 193, Jim Beers with 192, and Steve Lawrence with 189. Those are our results, and we do need to adopt the order canvassing those official results from Montgomery County elections.
So move.
There's a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Do have a question for the attorney. At one time, if you owned property, you were allowed to vote in the MUD election. Is that still true?
You have to be a resident. Have to be a resident.
When did that change?
I don't know that has changed.
Well, you know,
director-
we had mud lots for people who were not in the district. And they always voted. And we still have people with mud lots. And you're saying they are not allowed to vote where they're director.
So there is a distinction between the qualifications to be a director and the qualifications to be a voter. So the qualifications to be a director is that you either need to be a resident or you need to own property that's subject to taxation. To be a voter, you have to be a resident.
You have to be a US citizen registered.
There's a number of
Okay,
requirements to be
well,
registered to vote.
I sent my neighbor who lives in former MUD 2 and owns the house next to me. And they denied him the opportunity to vote. So I didn't go to my neighbor who is a Canadian to get their vote. Or my neighbor next to them that is Mexico City to get their vote. But that's an interesting point. You're saying that if you're a property owner, you're not allowed to vote unless you're a resident of that property.
Unless that is your.
Okay,
residence
thank you.
homestead.
I just wanted to clarify. I'm glad I didn't go off the chart on that because I had the wrong information
So,
because of mud lots.
okay, thank you. Is that it?
Yes, we do need to go on to item 16.
Did we vote on
We
it?
vote on item 15. We took a motion second, so we need to.
Yeah, we voted on it.
Yeah.
I guess
So these gentlemen finishing? Are these two gentlemen finished?
Oh, yeah, so we took the motion and the second and the vote and called the question.
It's been,
All right, so then we need to move to 16. Move to accept qualification statement. So when we take the oath of office for the new directors, we have two new directors who are coming on. Then once the current board, including Drew and Hartley, once the current board takes action to approve those qualification statements, bonds, oaths of office, et cetera, under item 16, at that point is when the new directors will come and be seated and then start their duties as directors. So y'all do need to stay and take action on
But-
item 16.
Item 16.
but Mr. Friedman and I get to report on anything we have in the future agenda,
If you have,
but we have no vote.
correct.
Yes, okay.
All right, so we do need to take the oath for Jim and Steve. Which one of y'all would like to? You have your document, I need to read off the oath.
Drew?
Yes, sir.
All right, raise your right hand. At the end, you don't have to read through the whole thing. If you don't want you to say I will, I do. Bond.
To do this for the camera.
Hey, Brian,
Yes, sir.
you want to do this in front of the camera, so it'll be on YouTube?
Recorded.
In front of the camera.
You got to come down here.
I think we're.
Oh, yeah, right
Yeah,
there.
but they- Yeah.
You come down here. whenever y'all
Start
do it.
until right there.
We want people to see your suits.
That's good.
That's good.
All right. You, Jim Beers, solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Director of the Woodlands Fire Number One of the state of Texas and will to the best of your ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help you God.
Oh, my God.
I affirm. Congratulations. Thank you. All right. You, Steve Lawrence, solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the Woodlands Mud Number One of the state of Texas and to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the laws and the Constitution and the laws of the United States and this state. So help you God.
I do affirm.
You got it. Congratulations. All right, Mindy, yours as well. For your new term. All right, you, Mindy Reynolds, solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the Woodlands Mud Number One of the state of Texas and will to the best of your ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help you God.
Yeah.
All right, congratulations. All right, fellas. Take your seats. Brad, can we take this action?
Before they leave, I want to just say a couple of things. I want to definitely thank Andrew and Hartley for your service on the board. I think, I think you served the board well. You served the residents of Mud One well. But I want to also thank you guys for what you do in the community. And, you look at where the Woodlands is today we just celebrated 50 years. Well, we had a generation that was part of that 50 years with Hartley and being involved with just about everything and anything out there, from the Panther Creek Village Association, which you were president, the bus rides down to the Astro game. And I won't miss seeing you at 4 o'clock in the morning at the flea market. But, the things that you have accomplished over the years, your dedicated service and leadership, and pass it on to the next generation. And Andrew, appreciate everything you do in the community and being president of the Panther Creek Village Association now and the things that you've been involved in. So we definitely appreciate it and hope to see you back on the board again. We have some plaques that we'd like to present to you.
We do. I wanted to just read it off to Hartley McIntosh. Our sincere thank you and appreciation for exceptional leadership and dedicated service to the Woodlands Municipal Utility District Number One from April of 1985, I believe, to May of 2024. Thank you very much.
Appointed in 84. Thank you. That's very nice. Look at this. Isn't that nice?
And then,
We used to have wooden plaques, but this is very nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Also, on behalf of the board, to Andrew Freeman as well, the same plaque. I'll read it again. Our sincere thank you and appreciation for exceptional leadership and dedicated service to the Woodlands Municipal Utility District Number One. Shorter stint, but just as important. So thank you very much.
You guys have anything you want to add before you leave?
Well, I'm on 25 and I'll make a report at that time. Item 25, but I'll do it from the back.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll just say thank you to the Woodlands Water staff, SJR. I mean, you guys have been wonderful To the new guys, congratulations, Steve and Jim. Just remember, my CFO told me when I had issues with IT, compassion and grace. There's a lot of great people in this room. So remember compassion and grace, because these people work hard to make sure that we have clean water. They are always here to support us. So I just, 2 words to tell you, compassion and grace. And for everyone else, grit and grind. That's what my CEO says,
Mhm.
grit and grind. Thank you.
Okay.
By the way, we do have a cake outside there for you guys, so Harley, you can eat part of your cake and take the rest home with you.
So you gotta go sit down.
All right, I need to take action on 16, and then Steve and Jim will be active directors. Do we have a motion on 16?
Do I have a motion to accept the qualification statements?
Yeah.
Also move.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Okay, item 17, election of officers to the board. We put this on each agenda, this and item 18 after each election cycle. We do have a vacancy at secretary. And so at a minimum, we need to replace the secretary position. We also do encourage for all the districts to have 2 assistant secretaries. Hartley, for his own personal reasons, did not want to serve as any other officer position on the district, so he didn't. But generally, we have 2 assistant secretaries. So regular secretary is not there, first assistant secretary, we always have somebody who's there to be able to sign documents that may need to be signed by the district. So the way this works is that we consider nominations for officer positions. If you're satisfied with existing positions that are currently occupied, then you don't need to take nominations on those particular positions. But at a minimum, we do need to consider a nomination for secretary, and then as a second assistant secretary. So with that,
Trustee too.
well, that's a separate item.
That's the next item.
That's a
Okay.
separate item. So right now, we're just doing officers of the budget. So we need to, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to y'all for discussion on if you want to make any nominations to change president, vice president, and then we'll move on to secretary.
All right. Do we have any objections to president?
No
Have any
objection.
objections to vice president? All right. Nomination for secretary treasurer.
I nominate Mindy.
A second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Nomination for assistant secretary. I'm nominating Jim Beers.
Well, and I'll nominate Steve.
Yes, Steve. I like Steve.
You like Steve?
Yeah.
All right.
We need 2 of them, so you'll.
Okay.
Yeah, we're both.
All right.
There's no other nomination. Do you accept the nominations?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so then we have completed that item.
So now we move on to item number 18, which is appointment of trustee and alternates. We do have a vacancy at trustee with Hartley coming off the board. We do have a first alternate and a second alternate. And so Jim and Steve, not sure if you're familiar with how this works. We have 1 primary trustee that attends the Woodlands Water meeting. There's 1 trustee from each MUD. I know I've seen you at a few of those. But then we also have, most MUDs have both the first alternate and a second alternate in the event that the primary trustee is out of town or unavailable to attend for some reason. We've got 1 to 2 layers of backup for folks that can attend those meetings in the primary trustee stead. So we do need to consider nominations for the primary trustee, and then if that changes the alternates, then we'll need to consider those as well.
Would like to nominate Walt Lashevsky for our trustee.
I'll second.
So we'll see. Are there any other nominees for trustees? Okay. You accept?
I'm not seconding, but it's okay. I'm good with Walt.
So you're not gonna accept the nomination for trustee? Because then we have.
Okay, I'll accept it. I'll accept it because I think I know where it goes.
We have multiple nominees, then we need to take a vote. Are there any other nominees for primary trustee? Okay, there's no other nominations, then we do need to take a vote. How we take the vote is up to y'all. We can do it by hands, do it by tearing up paper and ballots. How do y'all want to handle the vote?
No, I think we can do it just verbally.
My hand, yeah.
Okay, Walton Chesky been nominated for trustees. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
And then, vote.
do I need to vote for Steve Lawrence? Okay, Steve Lawrence has been nominated. Is there a second on that?
Well, it's just nominations.
Just nomination? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
I have to get at least one vote, so I.
And then you vote as well. As,
Abstain.
okay, all right, so we have trustee, and then now we need to move to, first.
First alternate. All right, I'll nominate Bob Lilac as first alternate. Is there a second?
I'm good. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, raise their hand. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Right, now we need to move to second alternate. We do have a vacancy there with Walt moving from second alternate to trustee.
All right, I'll nominate Steve Lawrence as second alternate.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
All right. That takes care of that item. The next ones are just administrative housekeeping items. So the first one, district registration form, that's an administrative document that our firm prepares and files with the TCEQ. Has factual information about the district, who the directors are, what their officer positions are, what their terms of office are. Since we now have 2 new directors and we have new officer positions, we need to update that form and file it with the TCEQ. So we do ask for a motion to authorize me to file that with the TCEQ.
I so move.
I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
20, authorize preparation and maintenance of a local government officers list in connection with conflict of interest disclosure requirements. This is a list that the district is required to keep on file so that vendors can refer to it to determine whether they have potential conflicts with the district. The list is comprised of the directors as well as your investment officer with Woodlands Water. So now that we have 2 new directors, we need to update that list to reflect the new directors on the board. We have a motion to approve the updating of that local government officers list on item 1.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that just for the new directors?
Well, it's a
We have
list
to
of
redo.
all, it's a list of all the directors, but we're updating it to add the 2 new.
Or add the new one? Oh, it's just an update to add to that. Okay. Sorry.
Item 21, training requirements. There's no action necessary here, but Steve and Jim, in your packet of materials, there is a memo in there about training requirements for the Texas Public Information Act and Open Meetings Act. It explains a lot, if you haven't already looked at it, about why we go through the whole drill of having a published agenda and why we, meet in open and documents and how it's kind of the flip of if you're used to the corporate environment where most everything's protected and confidential. Here, the rule is everything is open unless there's specific exceptions for documents that are protected. So new directors are required to watch a 1-hour video on both the Open Meetings Act and a separate 1-hour video on the Public Information Act. You can now watch those online. There's a link in the memo to where you can watch those when you're done. Used to, you always had to print out a certificate. I don't know where it is now, if you can print it out or just download an electronic one, but there's a certificate for completing each one of those. And so when you complete the training, if you would either download or print those and give those to Shelley, she'll put those in your file. You're supposed to do that within, I think it's 90 days of being seated as a new director. And then once you do that, the good news is it's only a one-time requirement. It's not like you have to do it every single time you're reelected. I will, of course, encourage you to refer back to it from time to time. Every 2 years, the Attorney General's office puts out a new handbook. It's pretty pretty detailed, pretty good reference document. They actually came out with a new one for 2024. So if you just can't help yourself with that kind of stuff, there's a good updated resource document out there for you. No actions necessary on item 21. And then on 22, conflicts disclosure statement reporting requirements memorandum. So there is another memo in your packet there about conflicts. Don't anticipate that you'll have any, but you've got a lot of check yes or no boxes on there. So if you've got questions about them, let me know. Otherwise, if you could complete that and return it back to us. And that's all I have on item 22. No actions necessary.
Thank you for your efforts, sir.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Like I said, I need to step out, so excuse me.
Yeah, thanks again. Okay, item 23, discuss One Water Task Force.
All right, just to give an update, we held an introduction meeting a couple weeks ago with township staff and woodland stakeholders. The general summary of the meeting was to introduce folks and then talk a little bit about the goals and mission of this round of the One Water Task Force. We talked about specific things that the group might tackle, as well as some additional participants that might be included over time into the group. So that's all I have.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. There was a comment made by one of the precinct chairs in Harris County about flooding, that every time they get torrential rains up here in Montgomery County, and that Montgomery County's not doing anything about flooding, which is something that, we talked about in the One Water Task Force, that our goal is to have a regional flood control district. And he was pretty adamant about the fact that nothing's being done up here. So might be very interesting. Might be good to get a copy of that and send it out for the next meeting also.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, and also, according to the paper, there were 1,500 homes flooded in Montgomery County. A large portion of them in the River Plantation, and I don't know about Harper's Landing or where the others were.
Yeah, Conroe River Plantation up along that area, kind of north of along the lake and north of the lake.
Which is not uncommon there.
That's right.
And then,
Yeah, once the lake gets above 204, that's when folks on the lake start flooding, and then there was additional flooding downstream of the West Fork as more and more water was released.
Bob and I worked in the house up there one time at River Plantation with water always up to the second story.
Yeah, the report I read on River Plantation was about 200 homes of 1,400 total.
Yeah.
So 200 flooded. That's
of
right.
course, Kingwood got whacked too, but that was from the East Fork of the San Jacinto, not the West Fork.
Okay, moving on to item 24, General Manager's Report.
All right, I have a few updates to go over today. I wanted to update you on how the Woodlands fared in the storm a couple weeks ago. Actually, very well. Mike and I went through some of the hot spots. There's some known areas that under the really, really heavy rain events that sometimes have issues. Went through there. There was minor street flooding. That's normal. A lot of people don't recall or understand that the streets are actually designed to flood, believe it or not. And so that protects the houses. But in this case, Woodlands fared very well. So wanted to kind of report that. Wanted to report an email that you probably received. We sent it out, I think last Monday, as a result of the storms the previous weekend. Water plant number 3 was hit by lightning. Water plant 3 is at the top of the map in kind of where that white box is in 47. So water plant 3 was hit by lightning that disabled the chlorine disinfection system, but in the open position. And so the solenoid stayed open or the valve stayed open, and that released chlorine. So as you can imagine, from that center point, kind of just slowly outward from that point, chlorine levels were raised in the system. We sent out a notice to the community, and then we partnered with SDRA as SDRA was addressing the issue at the plant itself. Both agencies were joining together to do a massive flushing of the area, kind of to get that higher elevated chlorine dispersed out of the system. 95%, 95% of the system was cleared up the next morning by Tuesday, midday or so. And then we were just identifying a couple hot spots there that were still elevated on Tuesday afternoon.
So it goes into a storage tank before it goes into the system. So they were able to drain it from the storage tank or flush from the tank.
So, I mean, Chris could probably speak more specifically, but my understanding was not only were the tanks drained, the ground storage tanks drained, but also a couple elevated storage tanks were drained as well. To get that water that was theoretically, filled those tanks previously with the elevated chlorine. Drain those first. Those are the big tickets, and then worked on the system.
There was about 15 million gallons of water loss in that 48-hour period. Drain the tanks, flush the system, and then push all the new water through the system.
And the system is set up into 3 pressure planes, and so the water itself really didn't get past where you see the blue 46 touching a yellow 60. It touched right into the yellow a little bit, but it didn't go further south and east of essentially that line. So it really more affected the northern portion of the wheels.
And then much of that's commercial.
Not necessarily. No, I will say, and John will confirm later as well, but that went out to, that went out through our Water Smart system. And so everybody that signed up for that received it. We also posted on social media. We had a 79% open rate on that email through Water Smart. So we keep trying to encourage folks to sign up for Water Smart. It is an invaluable tool for things like that, but more importantly, on a daily basis for leaks and things like that at your house and to track your water usage. But in this case, it worked to spread out that message and folks opened the message. So that was good. So that was next item. Did want to note that we will be hosting a new director orientation on, we've got, I think what we're going to do is probably split it up into 2 groups or 2 option dates. One will be June 5th, the second will be June 10th. We'll probably look for a mid-morning and then have lunch afterwards. We'll do it here, most likely. And then I suspect that SGA will also have one on infrastructure as well. So we'll do it more on what, the general what are MUDs, what's the WWA, kind of how the different organizations work together, things like that. In ours.
5th, what was the other date?
5th and 10th. We wanted to break it up into 2 weeks just in case people were on vacation and couldn't make one or the other. So, and if we have any stragglers that can't make either, then we'll try to host another one at some point. But that hopefully we can get most folks to attend that. I think we mentioned earlier the GRP fund, refund is indicated in your financials this month. Under the line item on page 6 of your financials, that other revenue in the revenue column at the top, it says 210,000. That's it right there. That's the credit that we received from SGRA. Just wanted to point out that was a question last month. Let's see, did want to report that the drought contingency plan and water conservation plan that we talked about last month, that was submitted to the TCQ, and we have received a response back that they received it and accepted our submittal. And then finally,
Before you get off on that, we all have a copy. I don't think the new directors have a copy, so
of the drought contingency plan.
get them a copy of it.
We will. And then we also, the lead copper rule revision, we've talked a little bit about that, not much, but by October of this year, we must create an inventory of the whole water system. And when I say inventory, I mean essentially were there any lead lines that were installed in the woodlands? And typically lead lines were used prior to 1988 or so. And so, past that wasn't even legal to use it. And so, most of it's PVC or plastics after that time period, but you still have to go in and verify, what pipe was used. Luckily, we have a couple of employees that have been here over 45 years that saw going to the ground. So what we're able to do affidavits and things like that to verify through their experience what lines, and then anything else that we can't verify, we'll need to dig up for any of the other older lines, but that's in motion as well. And then finally, I wanted to kick it over to John to give an update on the communications report.
Morning. Page 70 on your packet there for communications report. So I'm John Geiger. I'm the outreach, public outreach and education coordinator. This report, I'll keep it brief. Lots to talk about this morning, but there's a lot of context obviously behind these items. I'll provide a lot of that context in that new director training. Of course, feel free to call me at any point about any of this. All right, so we did a lot more with election information this year than we have historically. Posting it, social media, the website, the various channels. And I think that was a really good message to send to the public, not only to get them informed on when and where to vote, but that we want them invested in our happening. So, I think we did a good job of getting more information on that this round. We have some new updates to the website. We have a new rainfall data map. So at the top, you can get rainfall totals for the last 24 hours and last week. And then you can click to a map that has 7 different rain gauges throughout the woodlands. So you can see how much really fell in your local area. So that's a nice tool for folks and another way to get them to come to our website.
That's great.
A long time coming. We've been down for a
Good
while.
deal.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Good.
But I don't have to argue with my neighbor how much rain we got.
Well, the short answer, we've gotten plenty so far this year. We're doing good. Don't need to water your lawn right now. Next page, we've got samples of current marketing materials going out. That Woodlands Water Weekly, for the new director, if you're not signed up for that, I highly encourage you to do so. So that is it's a weekly email, goes every Monday morning. There's a lawn irrigation guide for the week that I crunch a bunch of data, tell you how much your lawn needs that week as far as watering. And then I put in other tidbits on native plant care, lawn care, water-wise practices and so forth, happenings and so on. So that's a good one. And that will also, when you sign up for that, you'll also be signing up for our standalone emails that we send out regularly on a whole host of topics. Again, yeah, just some current marketing materials that we have out. And then I want to give you an update on the Hallway Infrastructure Communications efforts. So the PEC, Public Education Committee, met with Hallway Communications Consultant last Wednesday. So we got an update from them. So they're now into the implementation phase. So we are putting rubber to the road here. So some key points in the near-term implementation. Working on getting a website up and running. So that is an accessible place for folks to go for the most up-to-date information on infrastructure. Initial stages of forming a citizen advisory group, and then working on some customer surveys. And then finally, WaterSmart, we are at 45% now, total accounts registered for WaterSmart. If you're not currently registered for WaterSmart, get on there. That's a really important tool for customers to understand how they're using water, to get leak alerts, and you can adjust how you want those leak alerts sent to you. You can now do your auto pay with no fees through WaterSmart, and there's a host of other tools there, customer support tools for folks. So that is probably our biggest single tool that we have to help customers save money and save water. So it's good to see that rocketing up to 45%. We were at 29% last month or 2 months ago. So we're really increasing our rate of registration right now. And then by the end of June, everyone that's on auto pay will need to be moved over to WaterSmart. You can do it 2 ways right now, making that shift. That's what's really driving up registration right now, is getting people over to that auto pay on WaterSmart, which is where they need to be anyways, because there's no fees. Any questions?
I think your section that you put out there on sustainability, basically, plants and trees and so forth, is very valuable. In fact, in on the DSC at our last workshop, we're looking at more and more at sustainability of how do we incorporate some of your findings in there in the standards. So that people realize, I mean, I can personally speak that with our freeze last year, there were a couple of plants that I had tried there, and of course they died when the freeze hit. At least I thought they did. They've come back better now than they ever have. And, you know, so I'm a firm believer if that tag on that plant doesn't say -20, it doesn't go in the ground. Because all you're doing is wasting money. But we're looking more and more at utilizing some of the things that you're putting in there so that people can realize that, you know, we're gonna have freezes and we're gonna have droughts, you know, but there are things that you can plant that you don't have to use a ton of water.
Yes, and we push native plants quite heavily because of the reasons you just spelled out, low water use, they survive the weather extremes we have. Habitat value, pollinator support, and we have a rebate program. Part of our rebate program, so you get up to $150 lifetime for water saving devices and native plants. 50% back off your purchase price of those items.
Thanks for everything you do. We appreciate it. Any other questions for,
One other thing, just wanted to note to the new directors, Shelley will giving you, if she hadn't already, an envelope that's got some business cards of our staff. As well at the orientation, we'll do introductions and go into a little bit more detail about what everybody does, but just wanted to offer that those business cards are there. Give us a call if you have any questions.
Wonderful, thank you.
all right, item number 25, Hartley, for the last time.
It's page 67 through 69. Are there any questions? That's a report of the trustee. With your indulgence, I'd like to make a couple closing remarks.
Please do.
First, congratulations to the winners of the election. And I want to acknowledge my defeat and my 40 years as a director and 39 years as a trustee. And let you know that during that period, I have encountered wonderful associates in this endeavor. Great respect for the staff that's educated me and the consultants that educated me and listened to my suggestions and sometimes even acted upon them. I figure everyone was a friend. We don't have enemies here. We're trying to work together, have friends, and I'm reminded of, in closing, those remarks of the English poet Diana Maria Mulloch Craig, who wrote about friendship, the following words: "Oh, the comfort, the inexpressible comfort of feeling safe with a person, having to neither measure words or weigh thoughts, but throwing them all right out just as they are, chaff and grain together, certain that a faithful hand will sift them, keep that which is worth keeping, and with a breath of kindness, throw the rest away." And with that, I want you to continue to do the wonderful things that have been done for this community. And please support the professionalism of our staff as San Jacinto River Authority and here and our consultants. And thank you for your cooperation and camaraderie during this period. Bye-bye.
And I'd like to,
Thank you, Hartley.
Hartley, before you leave, I just want to thank you for being our unofficial historian. And you've been really great for educating a lot of us.
Well, I get the last word then. And thank all of you for allowing me to bloviate and to tolerate my extended history lessons. And good night, good to do.
Hartley, don't forget the cake. Don't leave yet. Well, I guess he's going to. Gotta love Hartman. Item 26, recess to closed session. No need to do that. 27, reconvene in open session. No need to do that. Item 28, discuss the matters on the future agenda.
Well, before we do that, I would like to have Steve and Jim just tell a little bit about you and why you're interested in serving on the board and any concerns that you may have. Just want to get to know you. And I know he's a fly boy, so like my son, so I know that part of you.
Yeah, I'm technology oriented, but historically, I'm educated in environmental biology. I find it fascinating, and actually taking care of the environment is part of what I strove to do. Even flying jets, I know it sours the system a little bit, but there's ways of minimizing your impact, and that was one of the things that I strove to do in that. And I think here my goal is to find a way to accomplish what we need to accomplish. I would like to think that we're an oversight organization with a fiduciary responsibility, and that's the way I'm going to approach this. That we get what we need, keep our quality water level high, and do it the most efficiently that we can do it.
Thank you.
Jim?
I'm a retired physician. I worked in the emergency department at St. Luke's downtown for 30 years, and before that with Baylor Hospitals in Dallas. Before that, I was an electrical engineer, and I worked in instrumentation and controls for an oil company for about 3 years. And I've retired for the last 2. I had an interest, I saw that there were some large infrastructure projects coming up for review, and I just wanted to educate myself and my neighbors about, what was going on. And, I'm interested, just like Steve, in the most efficient approach to providing quality water and quality waste treatment, and that's basically my goal. So.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, 28, any items for future agenda?
Eric, do we need to vote to approve 5,000 or some amount for a part-time consultant for the One Water Task Force? I don't think we ever voted on that.
Yeah, I don't think that's premature at this point.
Well, we've talked about it now for several months.
Yeah, but I don't think that's part of the agenda either. That's something for that meeting.
Well, at some point, if we decide to do it, we're gonna have to vote to approve that.
Agreed, that
Yeah.
would be realistic.
Yeah.
I don't think today is the time.
Anything else? All right, item 29, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.